Empire.
Hello and welcome to another live stream edition of the John Connery Report. Remember, subscribe to the John Connery Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube later. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. You can always find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And you can always read my work on ESPN.com. And if you want to become a club member, go to the Empire Media YouTube page. You hit the word join, go from there. Going to be doing another private Zoom for you gold members on probably Thursday or Friday. I'll announce it tomorrow. Anyway, Bram, he's here too. You can watch the Bram Weinstein show wherever you get your podcast, ESPN 630, Empire Media, blah, 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 blah. How about this, Bram? A lot of people are talking about this team in a good way. Yeah. How about that?
It's been beyond a good start, right? I mean, beyond expectation. It's in some cases with the quarterback, it's kind of unprecedented and historic, which we can kind of go through. And really largely, and I agree with the sentiment that you just put up here. I'm having trouble believing this is actually happening because it's so ahead of schedule and not just because of the quarterback, just like in totality, how they're playing. Frankly, after rewatching the Arizona game, it was one of the best games I've seen this team play in all three phases in a long time, just kind of in general. So it wasn't just Jaden's been amazing, and we can talk about, I'm sure we're going to talk about that, but it's not just that. And it's happening so fast. That's what I think is what makes it hard to believe. I just never would have anticipated it coming together as quickly as it has.
You know, Bram, because like before the year, we would talk about this, right? Like what to expect this year. And I always kind of landed around that 7-win range, partly because there are so many things we didn't know and the impact of what we didn't know. And I think one of the impacts we're seeing is, and Dan Quinn has talked a lot about it, the cohesion, the chemistry, et cetera. And what is the impact of that? And I think we're seeing that, right? And he always gives little examples every week of something that somebody did who maybe is not a standout player, like Zacchaeus against the Bengals, coming off on the sidelines and congratulating Noah Brown when he'd want to be out there himself. And then the next week, what is he doing? 6 for 85 or whatever it is. But I think there's those little intangibles. It was hard to know how much would that maybe make up for some things that you didn't see, right? That you knew that were still maybe an issue, and then coaching in general. And I think we're seeing that it's made a big difference. All
massive. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I don't know, where do you even want to start? Because I mean, there's a lot here. You know, and I think so much has been said about Jaden, and I'm happy to talk about him. But really largely, you know, and I don't want to undersell it because I think it's amazing and we could talk about it. But I really, the whole effectiveness of the offense is shocking. And like, it just, the physicality that they're playing with across the board. Go watch McLaurin blocking on the edge the other day. Ben Sinnott coming along. This offensive line's way better than I think people really thought it was going, myself included, thought it was going to be. Go look at Andrew Wiley, who is wildly re-engaged into this team. Tyler Biadasz has been outstanding and has had a really huge key to the whole thing. The mistakes that they were making seem to be disappearing by the week. They're like an AI group. Like, you give them information and they get better very, very quickly. It's really bizarre. It's unusual. And I think it's a testament to the coaching. And the other thing that really stands out, you know, to me is the way that they're getting starting drives and their first down play calling. I got to tell you, like, Cliff Kingsbury is just absolutely killing it this year. And obviously they need to execute too, but the amount of different looks that they're giving on first down to get into these second and manageables where world is now their oyster to do whatever they want because of Jaden's legs and ability to extend plays and run and get yardage almost at ease if he wants to. It's remarkable. And so that's why I think it really is just so ahead of the curve. And it's like, we've covered this forever. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be really hard. And you just look across the field and you go, rookie quarterback, center wasn't here, left guard wasn't here, left tackle is a rookie who's rotating with a player, the tight ends weren't here, you know, like Ertz wasn't here, Zacchaeus wasn't here, all these players weren't here, Eckler wasn't here. the fact that it is functioning at this level, I think, is a testament to the execution, the buy-in, and the acumen of the coaching staff. And they deserve a tremendous amount of credit on that side of the ball for this start. And then add in that I think they have a special player at quarterback. And because they have a special player at quarterback, it's coming along way faster than I ever could have anticipated.
I'm going to kind of take a wild stab and say the Drake May fans for the number 2 pick are probably feeling okay right now too. So, yeah, and that's, I mean, who knows how it goes with them, but Jaden Daniels has been terrific. But to your point, Bram, about what Cliff Kingsbury's doing with the play calling, and you have to give like Brian Johnson and, the offensive staff and Anthony Lynn also some props too, because Bobby Johnson too, like they're having a hand in these game plans, et cetera. But what I like is I think they're giving him situations on early downs to be effective. So, and I was talking about this with Logan Paulson too, but it's one thing I've noticed that there's one drive that the second scoring drive they have, I absolutely loved for a couple reasons. And it speaks to what you're saying. So they get a first down run. I think they gained like 1 yard or something like that. But on second down, they put themselves into a third and manageable. It was designed for a quick game throw, get an easy completion to Terry McLaurin to put yourself in 3rd and 4. Makes a big difference in that area of the field at 3rd and 4 versus 3rd and 9. They pick up the 3rd and 4 because Daniels is really accurate and gets Zacchaeus on his proper shoulder, and he turns upfield. That play is the difference between completion percentage and accuracy. Completion percentage, you get the ball, maybe you get 3 yards. Accuracy is leading him into more yards. But I really like but to your point, like that second down call, I felt was just smart coaching. Just get the yards, right? Get the yards and put him in a 3rd and manageable, because with his legs, he can pick it up if somebody's not there. And I think they've done here's the other thing. They've had fewer third down plays than almost every team in the NFL. I forgot what the stat was. It's been such a long day. But that's because they convert so much on second down too. So, but I do agree, like the coaching, Bram, when I'm watching some of these route concepts and all that, and just the way they're getting guys open, it's really different. And it's not, different for us to watch here. And then you have the quarterback who can make it work. It's working together. Listen, you don't have number 5. A lot of this stuff may not work because I think he's got some special skill sets, the ability to throw in rhythm. His footwork is really, really good, and he just gets himself ready to throw right now. Just because what he's getting, and he's making it work, doesn't mean everybody's going to come in this office and do that. He is special with that. And then you add on top of that what the play calling is, and it takes advantage of that.
Yeah, it's been a joy to watch it. And obviously a privilege to call it. This is the most exciting, few weeks I've had, being in the booth, because it really feels like it's the beginning of something huge. And it's hard not to get really, really excited about it, because if this is ground zero and this is where they're starting off from, and there will be down games, obviously, like there's no chance that historically they can't keep up this pace. They're doing things that no one's ever done before. Jaden Daniels has a completion percentage that is the best in a 4-game span ever. Any quarterback, any season, any point in time in a season, he's got the best completion percentage over a 4-game span. That's ridiculous. They've scored 38 plus points 2 weeks in a row. The last time they did that was 1991. He's like, if he were to win, he would be only the 3rd rookie quarterback to start 4-1 in their first 5 starts. Like, utterly ridiculous things he is having, like, through a month. And it's just a month. And I think we need to qualify this. He's having the greatest season any rookie quarterback has ever had. And that's not an understatement, and it's not hyperbole. He is. The eye test, the metrics, all the breaking of records, like, he's reimagining what this is. Now, it's a long season, and things can really change, and they can really change fast. And they're playing a team with a really, really good defense. Don't look at that record this weekend. The Browns have lost 2 of their last 3, but they've given up 50-something points in 3 games. So, like, their defense is coming around to the point where they were like they were a year ago, where they're a top 10 to top 5 defense. Myles Garrett had 7 quarterback pressures and 2 sacks last week. This is by far the best set of corners they're going to face this season. So by no means are we going to throw a parade. Like, they got to walk in and play a really, really good defense this weekend. And we're going to find out, because it like, just because they did it last week doesn't mean they're going to do it next week. But I will say that the start has been remarkable. And I kept feeling like all along, I'm like, it's just baked in that it'll be ups and downs. There's this offensive line, we're not really sure. It's a rookie quarterback, all these new parts. How in the world would they get it all together? And they're the best, highest functioning, highest scoring team, best third down conversion team, most first downs, top 5 run team, 2 times 200 plus yard, rush days. With all of that in line, like, it's just almost implausible, right? It really is. Like, I've watched this too long and that's why I think everybody landed on how is this real, because it doesn't feel like it is. But let's enjoy it, because this is so beyond ahead of the curve. It's hard to really put into words.
It is. Now, there's a couple of things. One, you're becoming a social media star now because of these calls that you're getting every game. So that's got to be fun for you.
You know what? You want to know what about that, though, real quick? The reason why that is because of the way they're playing.
Well, of course.
What? Like that, it's about them, which I'm really, I'm very, trust me, I like all the attention. Don't get me wrong.
But
I like
fun.
Hey, it's Bram Weinstein here, voice of the Commanders, and of course, frequent guest of this podcast, the John Keim Report. I wanted to let you all know that my show, which airs at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on ESPN 630, is now exclusively produced by Empire Media, my company, and is going to be distributed through our network. So I'm asking you, please, if you subscribe to this show and love this show, give mine a try as well. Subscribe to the Bram Weinstein Show wherever you get your podcasts. And many of the shows and many of the elements that are in the show will be available on the Empire Media YouTube channel. We're going to talk a ton of Commanders and other DC sports. Check it out.
The other thing is, CJ Stroud had a pretty incredible year last year, and his start was like off the charts. So that's a hard thing. That's like those two back to back. Like, what he's doing is doing a lot. He's having the impact that CJ Stroud had last year for Houston. And it's funny because, like, could they be that team? Listen, there's 13 more games to go. There's a long way to go here, because I'm curious to see, one of the things I want to see is what are teams going to start doing now against him to try and take him away, and then how do they adjust? Because that's got to be the next step. Is you're watching Arizona try to rush. They rushed 3 defenders on, like, I think it was 12 times. That's a lot. Nobody else last week got rushed with 3 defenders more than 6 times in the NFL. So 3 defenders with a spy at times, and in those 12 times, he was 9 for 10 for 85 yards, 2 rushes for 5 yards. So the point is, like, there was an adjustment there, and they still handled it. And the rush wasn't getting there because the line was holding up. So I'm curious to see, like, what happens, if I'm another team, if I'm the Browns, do you look to blitz a little bit more, right? Because, like, hey, maybe they can do something with like Tampa did, and maybe get to them that way. But that was also game 1. You would think they've handled it much better since then. So that's going to be the next step for this offense, is teams will start to adjust. What then do you do? And I think they have, like, it's just been, like I said, you and I both go back. I spent all day Monday and most of Tuesday, I'm rewatching the game. And it's a number of times for every play. And it's just fun to watch. And I've done this for years. It's been a lot of years, Bram. It's been a struggle to rewatch it, just because it's like, this kind of sucks, just from a football aesthetic standpoint. Like, it's almost sometimes like, why would you do this? Why would you do that? It's a little bit insulting. This offense has been fun to watch.
Yeah. I want to talk about the defensive schemes that they've run against them, because actually I think this last week, either one of 2 things occurred. Either Arizona, like, outthought themselves and tried to play a cat and mouse game that really caught them, or they changed their scheme because they didn't think it would work against them. And only they can really answer this. But this is the other thing about this that is really remarkable. So Tampa Bay did what they do in week 1. They're exotic blitz team. They're going to heavy pressure team. They'll pressure more than most teams. And they didn't step back. And it was his first game. He's a rookie quarterback, and they did. And to some degree, it worked. In the end, in his opener, he could have had bare minimum 26 points because they missed 2 field goals, and could have had over 30, but whatever, it worked for them. And he got sped up and left the pocket, et cetera, et cetera. Week 2, they faced the Giants, who are no longer a blitz-happy team with the new defensive coordinator, and they played it the way they did in week 1, where they only pressured, 20, 25% of the time, and that didn't work. Like, They walked down the field. They scored every time they had the ball. It wasn't touchdowns, but they scored every time they had the ball. Week 3, they take on the Bengals. The Bengals see how Washington's running the ball. The Bengals have a deficiency in the run defense. They do exactly what I would have expected them to do. They load up in the box and they say, I dare you to beat us throwing the ball, which was the perfect timing for where's Terry, because he was finally going to get some opportunities, and he did. And what does Daniels do? He beats it. He shows them, okay, I can beat you that way too. They took Robinson away. I can beat you that way too. And then this week pops up. Arizona's tendency is to bring a form of kind of what Tampa does. I like the way Gannon coaches their defense. They might be a little short on some talent, but they're very fast. Budda Baker, Dennis Gardeck, Zaven Collins, Mac Wilson specifically. If you watch them leading into the game, they bring a lot of pressure, okay? They didn't in this game. They showed they were going to, but they didn't. A million times they rushed 3 or 4. Daniels had pockets he hadn't had. He is skewering them to the point where once the game started to get out of hand, that's when they changed. And that's when they actually started bringing some of the pressures that they had shown on tape. So one of two things happened. They either didn't bring the pressures because they were scared he would escape and kill him with his legs, or they're like, we're going to trick this rookie quarterback into seeing something that isn't there. And you know what? He passed that test. I've never seen anything like this. No matter what the other team does so far, he's got an answer for it. He's so far ahead of the curve that it's impossible to describe. And that's why I think we've all landed on this is real. He is a special player. I don't know what next year, the year after is going to be if it starts at this point, honestly.
Right. Well, and again, there's still going to be more that they have to go through to see everything, right? And it's a week-to-week thing. And when the Browns have a good defense, you got the Ravens in a couple of weeks, et cetera. So there's a lot more to go through. But you're right. I'm going to say it looked easy, but it's not easy. And so there's still going to be a lot to do with it. But, when you're watching him, there's some things just always will jump out. And with the answers too, that goes back to game planning and coaching as well, and then he's got to get on the field and recognize what he's seeing and go execute that. And so it's a hand in hand thing, and for sure, but they've done it so far. And what I like with him is the things that travel right from with a player, right? What travels for him week to week is poise. It's always there. He's patient. He's smart with the ball. His footwork is outstanding. And that's something that's been drilled into him. If people remember, I had his quarterbacks coach on from the guy who's had him since he was 10 years old. And that's something that was drilled into him at a young age. And it pays off for this team. That's why he's so accurate. Watch all that stuff. All those things travel. You're going to adjust to this and all that. There have been quarterbacks here who couldn't adjust. That was a big thing for Robert in 2012. And after he got hurt, but they couldn't adjust as much with him because I don't think he was capable of that. This young man is capable of that. So I think that's where the difference is. And listen, there's still other holes with this team. Somebody asked too about stopping the run. I agree with that. That's been a problem and it continues to be a problem. If you don't stop that, it's going to lead to some issue down the line. But having said that, they're 3-1 and they haven't stopped it yet. I guess the answer is yes, but how much has this recalibrated what your expectations are for the rest of the year?
Well, I've thought all along, the path for them would be, can they be around 500, maybe get to 9 wins? Does Dallas go sideways? Which, the markers of that in the offseason were there. It didn't mean it was going to happen, but their team wasn't as good as it was a year ago. There's a lot of pressure on them. They get an unbelievable amount of attention. Some of it is, I think, overblown for what they have right now, but they get an inordinate amount of attention because they are who they are. And this felt like this could go the wrong way on them type of season. And if it does, then there's an opening. Suddenly it looks like now you're in a position where you could, get to second place. If you get to second place in the division, then you've got a legitimate shot at a wild card. Well, look at what's going on with Philly right now. It could very easily be 1-3. like very easily. Could have lost the Saints game very easily. Could have lost the Packers game very easily. Got blown out last week, albeit I know they were missing some key people, but got blown out. Defense doesn't look as good, like all of a sudden, like this is feeling a little like 2020, the first year with Ron, where the door might get opened in a way that, maybe we didn't anticipate, because both of these teams may not be as strong as many people thought they were going to be. And so the door kind of gets open. So I think it's a possibility. And I will say this, like, I agree with you on the defense just in general. I think like the thing for this to really continue, you can't expect them to score on every drive, which is like basically what they've been doing. And that's not sustainable. So the defense going to have to hold up its end of the bargain. But on that front, I would say this was, and we could parse out whether, you don't think Arizona's offense isn't very good, which I can argue about that. I'm not sure they're very good, but it was by far not close their best defensive performance of the year. Dorrance Armstrong took advantage of an injured right tackle situation and played really, really well. Thought this was John Allen's best game by far. Bobby Wagner made 2 unbelievable plays in this game, along with the 15 tackles. But he had one where they tried to run this little rub route underneath route to Greg Dortch, and he stood in front of it and forced Murray to throw it to the spot he didn't want to throw it to, and it was incomplete. It was unreal. You got to see it on film. Like he saw it coming the whole time.
I talked about it on the film one the last night, and I put a diagram of the play because. And I even asked somebody, is this his job in the play, or is this just a savvy vet?
No way.
The answer was, it's a savvy vet. I thought it was like, and it's funny that you hit on that. I'm glad you did, because like when I kind of geek out over plays like that, just from a football intelligence standpoint, it's like that's just different. And he looks over and he sees them coming. And he's at the line of scrimmage. It's legal what he did, but it was just an impressive. I agree with that. It was an impressive smart play. They were better in the pass coverage. Yeah. And it's, now I will say, like, I'm not ready to anoint and say like, oh, the defense is now, we don't know, because like, I want to see them. You have to do it a few weeks in a row to see.
Yes.
But it does. But I do think that what this does is, like, if you're the defense, if you're that team, those players, as long as Jaden Daniels out there, you feel like you have hope. And when you have hope and confidence, it helps you play a little bit differently. And it is just different. And by the way, I just one little thing, because somebody asked this question. I do want to answer. B-Town Bones said, should teams shift their approach to drafting QBs, taking guys with playing experience over multiple years? Yes. I mean, that's always been the case. Like, that's always the ideal. And I think that has absolutely helped Jaden Daniels. And I want to kind of take that, because I think that those 55 games played, going from, as we talked, Bram, as you point out too, you go from one conference to a tougher conference, and you go in there and play well, you adjust to a team, et cetera. There was so much more you knew about Jaden Daniels, whereas some other quarterbacks, it's more projection. Like, I never would have taken Anthony Richardson as high as they did, because it was one season. It was a very up and down season. So it's all projection, and I think, like, for me, when I look at like him versus Drake May would have really good moments. Daniels had great games. Like, and so because you got a chance to see it build, you knew where he was. So, and that's not a shot against someone else. It's like, but you're still projecting. That's always been the desired thing. But I don't think one guy is going to change that. CJ Stroud only started for a couple years. So I don't think one guy changes that. But I do think, to me, it's preferable, because you learn so much about who they are in multiple situations.
One other quick, I just wanted to mention this one other play from Wagner that he did the other day. So he was like supposed to pick up a running back who was coming out of the backfield, who just vacated a spot. So Wagner just looked up and went and sacked Kyler Murray. Like, it was not a rush. Like, it wasn't a scheduled rush. He made 2 unbelievable plays, which is why he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, on Jaden Daniels. Like, what's kind of occurred to me about him, because you hear about the work ethic, and we now know about it because it's happened here. He's a sponge. His humility is very striking, because I think he recognizes how good of a player he is, but it's head down mentality. He's like, as Dan Quinn likes to say, he's not on the roller coaster. He's got this, we haven't done anything yet attitude about him. When you ask him, like, you just did this other amazing thing, he kind of just shrugs it. He's like, I'm just playing football, which is unreal. And I would say this about him now that I kind of gotten to know him a little bit and we're getting to know him, and all the things that they said about him have turned out to be true and beyond in terms of his work ethic, his desire, how much he loves the sport, how he wants to get better, 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 etc. Like what's occurred to me now is that he's with his peer group, that he's actually kind of been a professional football player for a couple of years now, that he puts in the time and the effort that few people do. A lot of guys get into the league based on their talent, and their athletic ability, and then they either turn into really good pros or they don't. It is what is abundantly clear now is he already had that in him, and that he really his last year at LSU was a professional. And now he's just in an environment where everybody around him are the professionals who take it as seriously as he does. And he's kind of in and around people like Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson and Sam Cosmi. And all teams have this, but like, this is part of the reason why I think he's off to such a fast start. He's been a professional and but he was playing at a collegiate level, but he's been a professional. I feel like he's in his peer group now, and he's so well liked in the locker room because he's fit himself in. He's not walking around telling everybody how great he is, and you could just sense how much they love him. I mean, John Allen, who doesn't smile much, after the game the other day, when you just bring up his name, the smile on his face that comes out, or the look on Terry McLaurin's face, or Deron Payne, the holdovers who've been here and are, who I think are kind of like us a little bit, going, is this real? You're like, I even would believe if you ask them the truth, did you have to see it to believe it? And you're in there every day. I bet you they would tell you yes on some level. Yeah, we got to see it to believe it. But he has, because of his ability, because of his fast learning, because it doesn't seem to matter what anyone throws at him. The pressure isn't too much for him. The stakes are never too high. It almost looks effortless at times. And as we went through earlier, where teams are throwing different things at him that you'd think would catch a rookie quarterback, and it hasn't happened yet. He's picked every safe along the way. Like, all I keep seeing is they have a special player and they recognize this. And I feel like he's kind of been ready for this probably for about a year, which is why he had the season he had in LSU a year ago.
Sure. But it goes back to habits too, because the 5 a.m. stuff, and it wasn't just like he did some of that stuff at Arizona State too, but he really attacked them in the last year, especially at LSU, and doing the virtual reality stuff as well, adding that to it really kind of elevated his game. And I think what you have to appreciate when he does something like that is there's that growth mindset. And I'm really kind of big into that, but that's a sign of, like, he was looking for anything to get better. I remember talking to people at LSU about that you're not every quarterback that I've covered would I say would embrace that technology, but he did. And I even told the guy at LSU, I was like, you had to have the right guy who did this for that company to really make it work. And they did. Like, he was enthusiastic about that. Point is, he's always looking to find ways to get better. Guys like that tend to succeed. And it is, when I remember talking to Terry McLaurin in the summer, so like these guys knew at a certain point early on that he's going to be pretty good. And they would always say, and even Zach Ertz before the season said, he's not going to be good down the road. He's really good right now. That was before the season started, Bram. And then Terry McLaurin, when I'm talking to him, like the look on his face, I even said, so in the spring, if you remember, maybe it was the spring, we talked. Oh yeah, it was in the spring. We had the long conversation with Terry in the 20 minutes or something, like we talked to him. And I just remember seeing a different look in his face. And like, this is like, I've been around Terry enough. I know when there's like, you're saying something versus when you just like are embracing and fully enthusiastic about something. And I saw him the next day at practice. And I even said something like, or at the next practice, and like, you're really gushing about him or something like that. And he basically said, he's legit. And so This was way before that. But somebody else brought up too, Bram, the offensive line. And I will say, I wanted to get there. I'm glad they said that, because the offensive line is playing well, very well. Now, what I will also say is, this is what we'd say before the season, is the impact of coaching and quarterback play makes a tremendous difference in an offensive line. Now, you brought up the key guy to me, Tyler Biadasz. They've also upgraded the talent inside.
Yeah.
Cosby's playing really well, but they're using Wiley right. And they're like Wiley in space does a pretty good job. I think
Yes.
that's the one thing. The last thing I'll say on that, Bram, I'll let you go and talk. But Brandon Coleman, the more he gets acclimated to it, he's a good athlete. Like Cornelius has done a good job, but Brandon's a better athlete. So that can just enhance some of the stuff you can do with the pulling action as he gets more comfortable. So they've done a good job upgrading it, I think, but also scheme, play calling, quarterback makes a difference.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, just the whole operation. I mean, it just deserves so much credit for what they've done, and I do feel like that the defense will improve. I agree that the rush defense needs to improve significantly from where it has been. I think there is some level of, that they need to be careful about, protecting the corners, because I still think that that's still a work in progress for sure. And like there are flaws, like on every roster, there are flaws, but I firmly believe, and I'm seeing the physicality that they talk about that I've seen on the offense and really seen on the coverage units too, which I think is underrated here. The coverage units are flying around like crazy too.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
coming. It's coming on defense. Jeremy Chin is starting to feel it a little bit. We know what Wagner's doing. Luvu is like plays with his hair on fire. Armstrong had a really good game for the first time. I thought Allen had his best game. So it's coming around here. And then they'll get some reinforcements. I'm waiting to see what Jordan McGee can do. I wonder if F.A. Obata, if he does come back, can he be an addition for them as a rotational defensive end? I don't know. So there's some things that are coming here that we'll just have to see. And I just want to say one quick thing is a lot of people asked on here, and I appreciate you mentioning the calls because I've been flattered by all the attention from the calls over the last couple of weeks that are getting around. If you want to listen to us, since we're now back to the let's turn up the radio, turn down the TV space, which I love. Big 100 is the flagship station in Washington, D.C., the Commanders radio networks all around the region. And if you don't live in the region, SiriusXM has all the local calls. NFL Plus has all the local calls. And if you're international, which I've gotten some people asking me about, I don't know. So stop asking me. I don't know how you get it.
Well, yes. And by the way, you brought up McGee and Obata. McGee is going to start. We'll know more tomorrow on Wednesday when we get into practice what his status is. I don't get the sense of with Obata that it's going to be anytime soon. And I don't know. I don't know what would happen with him. I'm not taking anything as a slam dunk with him. Also, my guy, Highlight Haven, is on here. And I went on his show. He's a 13-year-old. You're going to go on there soon.
Yeah.
The dude's got a future. Yes, good questions, and you'll enjoy being on there because I think he's just very sharp. So people want to check him out, Matthew. You do a good job. So wanted to give him a shout out since he's here. And then also, let's see. I'm going to go back to B-Town Bones because he makes another good point about Jaden, the sneaky, strong lower half. But I'm going to go to what I want to leap on that one is he's got a really good core. And I think that's why he does a really good job getting his body around on when he's on the move. He makes some accurate throws because I think that core is just really strong. And you see, he had a throw the other day where it's just, the throw to Luke McCaffrey. Like that's just, it's arm talent, boom, zip it. But that was his feet were not pointed. Like he's really good at getting his feet around. But in this case, he couldn't. But it's all core. And it's like he gets his upper body into that too when you can't get the legs into it the way you want. But he got such a strong core that he completed think something else to add to his arsenal of talent that he has. So, anyway, Bram, I think it's what I'm interested. The last thing from me too, is we got to wrap it up here, but I'll really be interested to see how the crowd responds on Sunday. I get the feeling that this will for the second home game of the season, it may be the most excited they've been in a long, long time, and understandably so. But, and I know, it's not going to be an easy game because it's the NFL. I will say the Browns offense is bad, but the defense can play. So you've got to be aware of that. And so it's going to be interesting, but I am curious to see the atmosphere at the stadium and how it's changed after only 2 weeks.
Since you're from Cleveland, I thought I would just say this note to you because this is amazing. I thought because we've been citing all these stats for the Commanders, obviously, because Jaden and the offense are doing things we haven't seen in a very long time. I can't even believe how many times I've said over the last couple of weeks since World War II or since 1950 or since 1991, all these crazy numbers that have popped up. Cleveland was in the playoffs a year ago. They're 1-3. Feels like they kind of need to win pretty badly here this weekend. Do you know the last time they went to the playoffs in back-to-back years was the 1980s?
Oh, yeah. I believe. Oh, yeah. It would have been 88, 89. So, yeah.
5 straight years, Marty Ball, Ernest Biner, the fumble. You know,
Yep.
coulda,
Oh,
woulda, shoulda with Denver in the way along the way
dude,
there. Right. Yeah.
I've got some stories about those games.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I'll just keep those to myself.
Yeah. This is the
Anyways, but
Commanders.
yeah, it's
Sorry. This is the Commanders
no,
podcast.
it's a desperate team,
It
and
is.
it's going to be interesting how they respond because they are desperate. And I like the Deshaun Watson thing has just created a massive mess for them. Not
Yep.
just because forget all the other stuff, just on the field, his play isn't there, but the contract is just a brutal, massive ball and chain on that franchise's leg. So, not
Yeah.
going to be, but like I said, what I'm just curious to see how the Washington fan base responds this week, because I just got a feeling it's going to be more electric than we're used to and have seen for a long time.
I
So
hope so. All right, but before we go, you have to answer this question because a million people have asked it, and I understand why they're asking it. So 30 seconds. Do you think Washington will try to acquire Devontae Adams?
I was going to ask that. I'm glad you bring it up. So a couple things. No, I don't, but I don't have any reporting yet to back that up. But I think you look at it, first of all, he's 31 years old. Secondly, he's going to, his salary, you'd have to renegotiate his contract because his salary cap hit the next 2 years is 35 and then 35. You cannot add a 31-year-old receiver at that, plus then giving up probably a high pick. So unless there is a change, and here's the other thing, the offense is doing pretty well. I don't like if you add, their issues are right now on the other side of the ball. You can always add talent. I get it. But right now, based on the cost, it would be a lot to see. Something would have to change. That's just my analysis right now. I don't have, that's not something I've dug deep into just yet, just because, it's just coming out tonight. And so, I think that would be, right now it'd be hard to see, Bram. How about you?
Yeah, I don't see it personally. It would be a character for what the team has done in general. But, to your point of, do you rearrange your like expectations for this season? Well, I don't know, so I don't know how the team feels about it, but I guess I would just say I'd be surprised. Be very
Me
surprised.
too. They can get another receiver, and guess what? They still need defensive help. And I don't like it's the same thing when Ayuk. They were not involved in any serious talks with them for this, and so it might. And I don't think they still. I don't get the sense that this is going to be like, oh my God, we're 3-1. Let's go get somebody now, right? I think unless it's somebody who's really going to put you on that. The guy's a great receiver, but it's a 35. You renegotiate. Now he's older, and now you're giving up draft capital. There's a lot there that it would be hard to see, but I'll certainly follow that more and more and more. So, anyways, that's it from us. Thanks to Bram for joining me. Thank everybody for tuning in. A lot more fun for people to discuss this and tune into these shows, Bram, right now, because finally, for the fans, I feel good for you guys that it's fun again, regardless of how Sunday goes or whatever. You can see the path to some better times ahead for sure. So anyway, Bram, that's it. I'll be back with another show, I think Thursday morning maybe, and talk to you next time.